Welcome back, 10:31. I think, ahead of schedule. I don't know. Dylan, did I get everything right on the screen? I always mess up something in an interview. That's how I start off the important ones. I say, let's break the ice. Did I spell anything wrong on the lower third? Am I good?
Let's see. Candidate. Yeah, I think you're good.
Oh, man. Look at that. No one at home can yell at me yet.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you're good.
Well, I've always loved talking about the upcoming races, whether it's a primary or general election or all that fun stuff. We've talked to Raja Krishnamurthy. We've gotten to talk to a lot of area representatives that are running on both sides, but also getting to talk with you now, running for District 13 on the Democratic side of things for this this challenge. You're facing Nikki Budzinski, March the 17th, almost here, and let's just go right into this. How are we feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. We've been knocking doors, we've been phone banking every day, and we've just been talking to people in the district. And right now, unfortunately, Donald Trump has not done a lot to help working families. A lot of his policies, unfortunately, have left people wanting more, whether they're Democrat or Republican. And unfortunately, right now, Nikki is not fighting back against what's going on. And yeah, I mean, that's what I want to fix. I want to make sure that we have an affordable America for everyone in IL-13 and beyond.
And you have such an interesting district. I mean, with District 13, I mean, if you could hand somebody a map and tell them to put this blindfold on and draw it, that's pretty much how and across it's not a state issue, it's a country issue with how these districts are going. But
absolutely,
with yours, you have so many different walks of life and backgrounds and different beliefs, but it just seems like the moral compass, the thoughts on what makes a happy life for us really doesn't change regardless of that. Take me through the individuals you've gotten to meet along the way, and I'm sure the tens of thousands of miles that go on a vehicle at that time too.
Yeah, I plan to own my vehicle for at least 10 years, and now I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna last that long. But we've talked to teachers, university workers, nurses, doctors, etc., steel workers, and everything in between. And yeah, right now, unfortunately, the consensus is that this isn't working for working people. And unfortunately, right now, we've just had politicians on both sides of the aisle not really represent our constituents. And I do think, and that's something, I'm running as a Democrat, but I call out the Democratic Party too, because unfortunately, with the corporate money they take, the money from groups like AIPAC, they reflect in their votes. And even on bills where they pass tax cuts for American families, there's one in 2023 that was, I think it was called like the American Families Tax Credit or whatever. For every dollar they give back to people, they give $3 to corporations. Wow. And so that's what we're talking about. So how do we make it to where everyone has a voice in Congress, not just billionaires and corporations?
Well, I feel like that's a message that so many people connect with too, and I think that regardless of how you feel politically, that's being felt on a variety of different topics right now that really are dominating global headlines. So you can go all down the list from it. What's your primary focus if March 17th comes and you emerge as the candidate now for the general for the 2026 midterms? Do you feel do you feel that there's a certain issue that you're going to drive home the hardest?
I think the big three for our area are Medicare for all, building affordable housing, and bringing good jobs with better wages, living wages into the district. Because there are so many issues right now that have 80% support across the board. Things like anti-corruption stuff, as far as banning congressional stock trading.
We saw that. That was the first time ever, I think, we've ever seen both sides of the aisle stand up and clap at anything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's where I think people are starting to come around on healthcare, because it's gotten so bad. Now with the ACA tax credit, it's gotten even worse. There was a poll a couple years ago that showed that 6 in 10 Americans, regardless of party, believe that the government should make sure that everyone has healthcare. And yeah, I mean, that's where we're at now. Unfortunately, we've been very propagandized, and unfortunately, like it's nobody's fault aside from the corporations that have really sold us a lie.
Well, and take me through the collaboration process on that. If you're able to get in there, take me through who you'd collaborate with to try to get these changes, really to the finish line too.
I think right now it's anyone that's willing to fight for their constituents. Okay. And that is regardless of whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I want to make sure that, I mean, look at Josh Hawley. He's a Republican senator. He claims that he's a populist that always wants to fight for affordability. I'm going to make sure that people like him actually do it. Because right now there's so many working class voters that do vote for the Republican Party. And unfortunately they are voting against their interests right now. I would love it if we were just bickering about small things here and there with our parties. Unfortunately, right now, human rights are on the table and civil rights is on the table as well. But, you know, if we can look at Thomas Massie too, and, you know, I don't agree with him on everything, but I agree with him on releasing the Epstein files. I agree with him on defunding Israel and stopping military aid to Israel and the genocide in Gaza. And so, yeah, when we see those commonalities, I'll work with whoever.
Well, and I think that's really important for the voter base to know, too, whenever you talk about, you know, collaboration. And really because it's, you know, so many times you think, you know, here we go, we're going to get, you know, this change is going to come, so to speak. And then you get there and you're on an island. And it's great to know that's how you get work done. Yeah. Take me through your background a little bit, because you do have an impressive background, and you know what leads up to you know, even getting to this point too. Because I think before we can go any further into your platform, I just think it'd be great for the voters to get to know a little bit more about Dylan and what leads up to the congressional run and the leadership role.
I grew up in a Chicago suburb initially to working class parents. My mom's a teacher, my dad's an engineer, and I definitely learned the value of a dollar, because unfortunately a lot of our fights at the dinner table, or my parents, you know, discussions at the dinner table were about money. And that's where the stress had always come. And obviously a lot of people can relate to that even now. I am a pro-peace U.S. Army veteran. I've served for 13 years, first as a combat medic and then as a medical planner. I've deployed to places like Afghanistan and Germany. I helped Ukraine. Thank you for that. And I supported Ukraine after they were invaded by Russia, things like that. And I'd like to say that that's part of the reason that I am so progressive, because you get paid a living wage, you get great benefits. I mean, I will say that our enlisted soldiers need to get paid more, but you know, you get guaranteed medical care, housing, money for food. And I'm also a former cancer research scientist. I worked at the University of Illinois for 4 years as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, and see, that's why it's always great as we're talking about this. I always like to talk a little bit and then bring it on back just to get the background before we go forward, because it really is good to know the individual behind the idea too, you know. So going forward, you know, you have your background, you know, there with you. What is the best trait that you've gathered from, you know, what you've done over the last, you know, decades, and how it's helped you in this congressional run? Because I always like that tie-in too.
I think for me, it always goes back to educating others on what's actually going on, explaining things in ways that people can understand. I broke down my cancer research to my soldiers and friends that, you know, didn't really have as much of a background in it. And I think it's so important right now, because the education system is failing in America. It's failing our children. And that's something I want to build back. And when it comes to things like independent media and media like yours, we need to invest in that infrastructure, because we need media that, regardless of who's in power, Democrat or Republican, they call balls and strikes, and they actually inform the public on what's going on.
Well, the Odyssey things, you know, and the corporate takeover has been a major issue for so long. And no, it doesn't matter what side you're on. I mean, it just can't happen. So it's great to hear that. You know, going into this too, I think that's what I find so interesting about your run, because you're saying things that everyone agrees with, I think, in that sense of our education system is failing. There's, if you poll anybody, I think 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, like you would say, yes. It's fascinating, though, the approach in which we get there. You know, how do we rebuild it? What's that vision look like? And I think that's where that collaboration comes back into play, too. What have you heard, you know, on the campaign trail about, you know, I'm sure you've heard a lot of ideas and a lot of input. Has there been a common consensus of what, you know, the people are really kind of thinking could be that step forward to rebuilding an education system or providing health care?
Yeah, I mean, with education, it's not private school vouchers, right? It's federal investment in our education system, to the point where Finland is a great example, where you can move anywhere in Finland and know that the school is good, that your child will have free breakfast and lunch. They will be guaranteed those meals. And that's something that we need everywhere. It's just, and I think it's a winning issue with a lot of people because we need to take care of our children. We need to make sure that we have people who will fight even better than us for our country in the future. With things like Medicare for All, we need to realize that it's, in the long run, it is just as expensive as what our current system is now. America spends so much more on healthcare than so many other countries in the world. And so once we get rolling in that system, 5 years in, we're spending less than we are now. Mm-hmm. It's just, it needs to do that transition. Can I ask you, because that was discussed at the, the State of the Union is giving everybody a check, I guess, to bring it back to the citizen. What's your thought on that? Because if someone hears that, and I'm sure in a blanket statement, they go, wow, I'm getting a check, or I'm getting this, and it could be, metaphorically cheaper or whatever. Yeah. What's your take on, when we talk about giving the money, quote unquote, back to the people? What's your approach to that and really limiting and really making it more affordable? Was that in healthcare or education? In healthcare. So unfortunately, we just have to think of where is that money going to end up going, right? I mean, it's going to go back to corporations. And so unfortunately, Donald Trump really knows what the people want right now. And he's speaking a lot of populist points, but it's disingenuous, and it's ultimately to help his billionaire buddies, the Epstein class, and these people who have just taken advantage of us for too long. So what I want to do with healthcare is I want to make all those jobs federal. Things like a federal jobs program where we make sure that companies aren't exploiting them. So in Canada, administration cost is 16%. In America, it's 33. 1/3 of our healthcare costs is paperwork. Wow. That is something that we can cut down. We can make all those jobs federal so that instead of health insurance companies, which are focused on making a profit, we have federal workers who are focused on helping American citizens, right? And that's where, when I explain those things, people understand it so much more. That no, when we talk about big government, it's not this scary thing. It's about making sure that people have guaranteed jobs with good wages, great benefits, and that we don't have private institutions that are meddling in that. Well, and before we take a quick break and we come back and continue the conversation, I want to put a pinpoint on that because I want to keep going on. I think it's a great point. Has there been a conversation you've had with an individual that's really kind of kept you inspired along this? Because I'm sure, God dang, I couldn't imagine. Running for anything locally is tough, but when you're running for something like this, it's a lot of work. Yeah. Has there been one message or one individual that's kind of helped push you along? Oof, I guess it's all collectively, at the doors. I was actually at SIUE one day in Edwardsville, and a woman told me that she's worked at the university for over 10 years and she's still barely making over minimum wage. She's unionized. And so that encapsulates a lot of what our platform is. It's building strong unions, fighting back in any way we can, fighting for worker rights, better wages, better benefits. And so, I'm fighting for her and everyone else like her. We're going to continue this conversation after a quick break. You stay there, and we'll be here, Roku TV, RiverBender.com if you watch it later, Apple Podcasts, and all the simulcasts we do.
At Alton Elite Jiu-Jitsu, we help students of all ages build confidence, discipline, and real-world strength. Join a supportive community that challenges you to grow both on and off the mat. Experience the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a 7-day free trial at our new location. Call 618-795-2692 or visit AltonElite.com to start your journey today. Train hard, serve others, live elite at Alton Elite Jiu-Jitsu. When you need a project done right, on budget, and on time, trust Gillahan Concrete. Gillahan handles every kind of project, big and small. Commercial, industrial, residential, from room additions and garages to patios, driveways, and more. Gillahan brings quality and experience to every job. Family owned with over 30 years of service to our community. Call today at 618-781-3914 or visit GillahanConcrete.com.
With over 20 years of experience, Wilson's Tree Service has the expertise to handle all of your tree care needs. Licensed and fully insured, their team of experts are dedicated to providing reliable service. Plus, with a 24-hour emergency service line, Wilson's will always be there for you. Don't risk tackling that timber by yourself. Trust the local professionals at Wilson's Tree Service. Visit treeservicealtonil.org to get started today.
conversation continues right here on RiverBender.com. Dylan Blaha, did I say that right?
You did, yeah.
See, I'm on fire. See, I always come back with a good icebreaker.
Today, yeah.
I always either mispronounce something or, we stumble through it. It's like Elvis in the 70s. You just say good job at the end and see you tomorrow. Getting back into this conversation, the word affordability is being used like it is just buzzword of the entire lifetime. And I feel like both sides are doing it. It's kind of like it's campaign year. We get some midterms. We got to let people know. But, affordability to me is, groceries, but also, cost of living items too, like electric and water. And, I don't know if you have any thoughts on, the emergency or the after hours reconnection fees. And the only reason I know this is I know of somebody, they had to pay a bill and it was only a couple $100 and they had the money. They call American Water and they say, well, we can turn it on for you. You have the money, but it's another $150 because it's 5:30 and we close at 5. And he goes, well, how much will it be tomorrow? And they say it'll be free. How does that make sense? And so it's things like that where, bills are expensive. Yeah. But for a struggling family or anybody who's trying to pay something, it seems like you get kicked down further just to get caught back up. Is there anything that you think of a congressional member could do to, if it's put pressure or if it's just, raise awareness for it to make policy changes internally? What's the thought?
I mean, we need to get rid of these public-private partnerships. I mean, obviously American Water, Ameren are just great examples of how, unfortunately, these companies don't have our best interests at heart. And so it's really difficult to see that companies like Ameren are some of the biggest donors to Representative Budzinski. And then we ask for our energy prices, our energy bills to go down, and that's not happening. And a big reason they are right now is, unfortunately, these AI data centers that are completely driving up water and electricity costs throughout the district. My energy bills have skyrocketed. I know people around me have too. And it's hard. You wonder if you've lost a job, it's not just about worrying about paying your mortgage or your car. It's how do I even pay my utilities right now? Yeah. It is a tax on the working class. And so that is what I actually want our politicians to get back to. And I think right now we just don't have politicians that really need to care about the needs of their district. Yeah. Most representatives, Representative Budzinski raises $4 million a cycle. 96.4 of that is from big money donors, corporations, super PACs, etc. So she makes just over 3% from small dollar donations from people, from you and I.
Yeah. Well, and how does that, affect a race like this with the primary? Because, when it comes to that discrepancy of, it becomes a powerhouse when it starts to build up over time and here, you are on a grassroots, or if that's what, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. How do you combat that?
We've definitely outstretched our dollar every step of the way.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just great volunteers. It's hard work, door knocking, phone banking, things that a lot of people, it's out of their comfort zone. We have so many volunteers that this is the first campaign they volunteered on. Obviously, we do have people, who have helped Bernie in the past and are door knocking for us now, and that's great to see. But it's been amazing to see the amount of people that this is their first dip in politics, and they just believe in our message and they want to win. But fighting against big money is hard, and it won't be easy.
You are less than a month away from the 17th. What's the roadmap look like for you leading up to the primary day?
So we've been doing town halls across the district. We have a couple more left. We have one on Saturday in Champaign, and then one on March 4th in Springfield. And other than that, it's really just going to be door knocking, attending events in the community as much as possible, and trying to reach people in any way that I can. Like I said, I'm not the winning candidate when it comes to money, but that doesn't mean that I'm not the winning candidate overall. And so I hope that on the night of March 17th, we have a good result and people finally feel like they have somebody that's going to fight for working class interests. Before
I let you go, I got to ask you just some campaign stories here. Has there been a conversation that surprised you the most? Like if you're knocking a door, you're going to an event where you're like, man, I am in proverbial Republican country here, and it just kind of flips on you. Have you had that happen? And I'm only curious because I feel like the populist message and all that, it's all the same. It just, it's just ways in which we get there. Like I said earlier,
I will say there's a lot of Republicans. I was knocking door in Wood River, and I spoke with a few Republicans who had voted Democrat in the past. They voted for Donald Trump, and they felt horrible about it with everything that ICE is doing in our communities, him threatening to use the military in our streets, and they just want affordability, real affordability. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been easy to flip them. Honestly, sometimes Nikki supporters can be a little harsher on me than Republicans. Yeah, Republicans usually just say, wrong team. You know, but yeah,
that's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah,
well, I know you don't, but you know.
Yeah.
Now, have you gotten a chance to talk with a few of the elected officials or anybody along the way, whether it's on this campaign or leading up to it? And what bit of advice has stuck with you the most?
Yeah, I've met a lot of great politicians, both downstate and in Chicago, going up to events there. And I think it's just inspiring to see the amount of progressive leaders throughout the state that are willing to forsake big money and just fight for working class policies, to stand up against the genocide in Gaza and everything that's going on. So people like Karina Villa, she's running for state controller. Mm-hmm. She's somebody that has been very inspiring to me. I've met just so many state reps, ones in our area. Mm-hmm. I will say, please, when you look at your representatives, who you're voting for, please take a look at who they take money from, because that, unfortunately, right now says a lot about who they fight for.
Yeah. Well, and before I let you go, we've had a chance to talk here for over 20 minutes now. I really enjoyed the conversation and getting to know you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
If you could sum up your campaign, and I don't like to do this always, but I think we've gotten to the point where we've heard a lot of really important things. Could you sum up who Dylan is? Who Dylan Blaha is to the public before we let you go? It doesn't have to be 60 seconds, but if you could just, give the LinkedIn profile in a way, here's who I am. What would you like him to know about you?
Dylan is a fighter who believes in helping people. That's why I've gone into healthcare in the past. That's why I've sought out jobs that just help people, because I want to make sure that I leave this world better than I found it. I want to make sure that I leave this country and this district better than I found it. And so no matter what, I will always fight for you and make sure that at the end of the day, the families in IL-13 feel like they have somebody who has their back. Because right now, more than anything, there's so many Republicans and so many Democrats that I say time and time again, they don't represent me, so I don't know who in fact they are representing. I will represent you.
Dylan, it's been great talking with you. What's the best way to stay up to date on your campaign? Yeah,
you can follow me on @Dylan Blaha for Congress on Instagram. I'm also on all the other social medias. I'll probably go back to X soon. I left it for a while. And you can always go to DylanForIllinois.com and click on any of our social media links from there.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll take a quick break and wrap up Thursday morning right after this on RiverBender.com and Roku TV.